Other Side Picnic had a huge amount of potential to be an absolute banger this season. The concept for the story is actually really good, and the characters looked interesting, but the way the anime handled everything is kinda shit. The pacing of the story isn't really great, and the characters really are pretty interesting, I'll give them that, but don't even get me started on the animation. It literally looks like we went back 10 years ago, and I don't like it. The animation is really bad. I will say this now, and I won't say it again. Pick a medium, either 2D or 3D. Don't try to mix both. It doesn't work. It's okay to have some in the background crowd be CG for saving money or whatever, but don't try to switch between the two with the foreground characters. It looks like shit, and that is why anime stopped doing it like 5 years ago, because they learned that it doesn't look good. But for some reason, the people working on Other Side Picnic didn't get the memo, and now the anime looks like garbage. But the story, although pacing wise isn't great, is interesting, and the characters are also pretty good and interesting, so just read the manga and don't bother with the anime. And now that this is the end of the non-spoiler section of this video, if you want to check it out, read the manga and don't bother with the anime, because the anime isn't good. Okay, now that my rant is done, I do actually want to talk about Other Side Picnic more. The story of Other Side Picnic is actually interesting. The only problem I have with it is the pacing, but the story overall is actually interesting. We meet our two main characters in the place fittingly known as the Other Side, and they're traveling to the other side to try and find either someone important to them or to try and discover themselves, and the story is actually pretty good, and our two main leads make for a pretty good duo in the story, and they complement each other quite well. Overall, I would say that the story is good, but there are some parts where they add elements that I feel like they don't need to be there, like the story where they accidentally left the scientist girl on the other side. Why was that there in the most recent episode? The freaking American soldiers too. It's like, why get them to speak English if they're going to sound like shit? Like, just get them to speak Japanese. It actually makes me lose the immersion more when they speak shitty English than if they just spoke Japanese, but overall, I would say that the story is pretty good, despite the weird pacing of the story. The characters in Other Side Picnic had a lot of potential to be well written and interesting characters. Some of them do have interesting backstories and make you want to learn more about them, but the characters so far have been pretty boring in terms of development, and it's not like it's been subtle development. It's like there isn't any at all, except for one character, and honestly, I find that to be a problem, because the characters feel like they're not growing and changing and learning from their past mistakes. I do hope that that changes, because the characters do have interesting backstories, and I do want to have them explored more. Sorao is the most interesting and honestly the best written character in the show so far. We don't really know much about her character as of this moment, despite the fact that she is one of the main characters, but what we do know is interesting. She is very intelligent when it comes to talking about occult-like things and stories like that from the internet, and she is also the only character with character development as of this moment in the story. Sorao is a character that when she met Toriko is already almost a completely different character, and that is because she has been influenced a lot by Toriko, and honestly, I like the way that her character is going. You can see that she has definitely developed some kind of feelings for Toriko, as she gets jealous every time Toriko talks about her old friend, and I love that about her character. She is by far the most interesting and well-written character in the series. Toriko, the other main character I briefly talked about when talking about Sorao, and Toriko is a character that we probably know more about than Sorao, but she still comes off as a very mysterious person, and that is interesting. Toriko is a girl who lost somebody very important to her on the other side, and is looking for her, and that's fine, but it always feels like she's taking advantage of Sorao, even if she isn't trying to, because Sorao will always be there to help, and you know that's fine. That could be used as a plot device to help her grow as a character in person, but throughout everything I've seen so far, she never seems to ask, do you want to go to the other side? It's always, when are you free to go next? And it feels like she hasn't changed at all in that aspect, and I hope that she grows as a character as time goes on, but as of right now, she is a pretty boring character with a really interesting backstory. I've already gone on length bashing the animation of the series, and I want to talk a little more calmly about it. The animation in the 2D segments looks really good, and I would be perfectly fine if it was all 2D. Hell, I'd be perfectly fine if it was all 3D. There are plenty of good anime that are all 3D, like Beastars and Land of the Lustrous, but when a studio tries to combine both 2D and 3D in a series at the same time, it doesn't work. The animation in this series isn't good. I honestly don't know what the studio was thinking when they added the 3D to the series, because it is really bad. The music in the series isn't so bad, although it's not absolutely amazing, but it is pretty good. I like a lot of the track. It knows exactly how to get you to feel during a scene, and that's great. Honestly, they dropped the ball in the animation, but the music isn't so bad. I like the music. It isn't something I would listen to outside of the series, but it is good. The OSTs are pretty interesting, and the OP sounds nice overall. I would give the music a passing score. It's good and sets up the scenes perfectly. Other Side Picnic is a disappointing anime with a really cool and interesting premise. The characters and the story were actually really interesting, but there are many elements of the series that really drop the ball, like the animation and even the character writing. It's all either really bad or average at best. If you do want to experience the story of Other Side Picnic, I would recommend just reading the manga, and then you won't have to suffer through the terrible animation that the anime has.